This next lecture that we're going to get into deals with a tool that's not active within your Excel interface by default. It comes with Excel, it's free, but we need to activate it. This is called an add-in. And the specific add-in that we want to activate is called the solver. Now the solver tool is going to sound kind of similar to the 𝗙𝗍 tool that we just got done talking about. You might recall the 𝗙𝗍 tool will allow us to change a formula's output by changing something within the formula. Just to refresh our memories, if we go back to the 𝗙𝗍 sheet, we said, hey Excel, I want you to change this formula right here, which uses the PMT function, the payment function. I want you to change that to a goal of 1200. Well, Excel says, well, great, I could do that. But what are you going to let me change in order to get to that 1200? So we say, okay, Excel, let's get to 1200 right there by changing this mortgage amount. And you can change that, but just give me to the 1200. That's the 𝗙𝗍. Now, unfortunately, the 𝗙𝗍 will only allow you to change one thing. That means I couldn't say, Excel, I want you to change the mortgage amount, but I also want you to adjust the interest rate and try to keep the mortgage amount no less than $200,000. 𝗙𝗍 can't do that. It just says, what do you want to change it to? And what are you going to let me change? And Excel does the rest for you. It just sits there and calculates and then finds the results and gives it to you. It's kind of limited. It's great. It's great. You'd use this next time you go buy a car, right? Bring it in the dealership and say, hey, you know what? I want to get that down to 1200. Let's change the interest rate. Okay? Great. Plug it into Excel, get Excel to do it for you. Okay? But if you want to get more involved, right, you want to be able to set up multiple constraints and say, hey, Excel, I want you to hit this value or get a minimum value or a maximum value, but I want you to stay within these thresholds and change this, that, and the other thing, and Excel will figure it all out for you. This is the solver tool. Let's take a look at it. So inside of our scenario here, we got two little tables. We got our plant table with various quarters. We got a shipping amount table. Now, our goal is to minimize the total shipping amount. I want to keep that number as low as possible, right? Because shipping adds to our costs, right? It can eat into our overhead. It can eat into our customers' pockets, right? We want to keep that down low. Now, there's some constraints involved in this. I want to keep that value right there, that $5 currently. I want to keep that as low as possible, but we have some constraints to live within. So our goal, using the solver tool, I want to optimize the total shipping cost right there, right? But the following constraints must be set. This deals with our plant right here. Each plant must produce at least 20 units. So we got 3 plants. Each quarter, right, they must produce at least 20 units, no less. Step 2, plant 1 has a maximum capacity of 92 units per quarter. So plant 1 cannot produce more than 92. So now we have a threshold in there, right? No less than 20, no higher than 92. Plant 2 has a maximum of 45. Plant 3 has a maximum of 55. So no less than 20 and no more than their maximum capacity. All right. Step number 3, or constraint 3, the plant production must equal the requirements of the warehouse. So warehouse demands that during quarter 1, you produce 180. During quarter 2, 80. During quarter 3, 190. During quarter 4, 160. Okay, so they got to hit that. So they've got their low, they've got their high for each quarter, for each plant, and they've got their warehouse demands. We need this. And now there's a lot going on in there. And our ultimate goal, stay within these constraints, but minimize the total shipping. All right, let's try this out. So our first step, before we can run all this, we have to activate the solver tool. So to do this, let's go up to our File tab. Let's go down to Options. Inside of the Excel Options window, down the left-hand side, we're going to go to Add-ins. And inside of Add-ins, we can see that we have one called the Solver Add-in. Now, this isn't currently active. We need to activate it. So I'm going to go down to Manage Excel Add-ins, and I'm going to hit the Go button. And inside of here, we're going to activate the Solver Add-in. So make sure you place a little check in there for the Solver Add-in. Once you got that, I'll hit OK. And now on my data tab, top of my screen, I've now got the solver tool. There it is right there, solver. Now, if you need to take a moment, pause the video, file, options, add-ins, and go activate the solver tool, then jump back in and we'll see how this works. Got that? All right, so now to activate the solver and start to use it here. I'm gonna go ahead and open up solver. Here's our solver parameters window. So my objective, the objective that I wanna set is we want to take H8, which is the total shipping cost. Okay? Currently it's at 5 because we don't have any really true values inside of here yet. So $5, but we want to set the objective of that cell to a minimum value. We want to try to keep shipping costs down. Let's optimize it, not as much, right? Now we're going to allow this to happen by changing some specific cells. We want to be able to change B5 through E7, which are these guys right here, right? B5 through E7. So let's keep the shipping costs down by optimizing that right there, optimizing those numbers. Now, we're not done yet. I can't just hit OK here and say solve it, right? Because remember, we've got some constraints that this solver needs to adhere to. So let's start setting up these constraints. So the first one says, number 1, each plant must produce at least 20 units a quarter to justify remaining open. All right, 20 units a quarter. So here, I'm going to set a constraint. I'm going to hit add, and we're going to say B5 through E7, that range right there, each plant for each quarter has to be, what was it? At least 20 units. So it's got to be greater than or equal to 20. And I'll go ahead and add that. All right, that's our first constraint. Number 1, that range of cells has to be 20, at least 20, right, to justify remaining open. Now, number 2 has one for each plant. Plant 1 has a maximum of 92 per quarter. Plant 2 has a maximum of 45 per quarter, and plant 3 has a maximum of 55 per quarter. All right, so I'm going to do this for each of the plants here. So for the first one, plant 1, maximum capacity of 92, I'm going to grab B5 to E5 and say that that one, maximum capacity, right, must be less than or equal to 92. And I'll add that one. There's plant 1. Now I'm going to do the same for plant 2. Let's grab plant 2's quarters. B6 through E6 must be less than or equal to 45. And I'll add it. And then the last one there for for plant 3, less than or equal to 55. And I'm going to add it. All right, so we've got our first 2 constraints out of the way. Each plant produces no less than 20 units, and then each plant has a maximum for the quarter. All right, number 3, the plant production must equal the requirements of the warehouse demand. All right, since there's a short shelf life. So for quarter 1, they demand 180 units across the 3 plants. Quarter 2, 80. Quarter 3, 190. Quarter 4, 160. So this total units produced, I'm just going to say for cell reference, I'm going to grab B8 to E8. That right there must equal this right here, this warehouse demands. So the total units for the quarter must meet the warehouse demands. Then I'll add it. And that's it. I think the last one, and then the last one's just a note, just letting us know that there are various changes inside the shipping per unit cost. That's fine based on location. So I can hit OK. Oh, let's just close that, I guess. Let's cancel that one. And there's our constraints. All right, the 92, the 20 for the minimum, the 45, the 55, and the equal for the warehouse demands. Okay, so now we're going to set the objective of the total shipping cost to a minimum by changing these cells, but within these constraints. And that's it. I'm going to go ahead and hit solve. Gives it just a moment. Excel spit it out on my other window here. All right, solver found a solution. All constraints are optimally conditions are satisfied. Keep the solver. All right, let's see what it did here for us. So plant 1, did it stay within the constraints? It has a maximum capacity of 92. Okay, 92 is a maximum. 40 it dropped. 92, 92. That looks good. It didn't go over, right? And it's always above 20. It's minimum. Plant 3 had a 45, or excuse me, plant 2 had a 45, 33.20, which was his minimum, 43.20, okay, 55, 20, 55, 48, that all looks good. These numbers here equal out to this, and it gave us a minimum of $866.54. There we go. There we have it. So if I say, yep, I'm going to keep it, I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. We've got our results. This is our solver. It's able to figure that out. It gave us a minimum value. Excel did its magic in the background, all based on the constraints that we fed it. So try this out. You got to activate it first. Remember, File, Options, Add-ins, turn on the Solver Excel add-in, and then you can utilize these constraints to find that minimum value for the shipping cost. This is the Excel solver.